All right, it is Sunday, the weekend of April 7th, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Taking a look at the price action of the indexes last week, starting with the NQ, as always. What do you see there, Price?
Well, this week we actually saw a pretty massive rejection here on Thursday morning, and we actually got a pretty solid buyback all day Friday and Thursday afternoon. So that was a pretty big move, very large swing there. Let's do a quick ruler poll on that. A quick 2% to the downside. That's 440 points. That's
almost two
that's
and
a
a
lot.
half.
That's
Wild.
and that's only the one candle. So there was a little higher there. So pretty big sell off there, but we did actually come up, and now actually Sunday afternoon here, we are still holding the top of this zone here that we've got identified here. And this is an important level because it's the one that broke and produced the low here. It's also the one that they finally gained here and produced the all-time high here. So if we can hold this, we can see a higher low right here, and a return to all-time high is possible. What is more likely, however, I think, is that it's going to come down. And if it comes down, we'll be in a regain situation where we'll have to be regaining these. And it is a good long zone down here, but you'll still want to be taking profits all the way up. And you either way, you want to take profits all the way up, but we'll be in a regain spot. So we've gained now, and if we hold, we do expect higher. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that that's certainly the case. I think the big level on the gain of the chart here is, the level that attempted to hold to kind of try again at the highs and then ended up failing on that big candle down. I think that you could be kind of watching this area at 462, 18,462. If we gain that, lose it again, and retest it to the downside, I think this could be a very strong short position, because then we're looking to, if we really fail this level, if we take a short from there, come down to the level you're talking about that needs to hold, and fail that as well, we need to make a new low lower than the low down here at 18,000 potentially, and then that's going to be a very large drawdown trade. That's almost 4% potentially. Not, you wouldn't hold for the whole thing like you keep saying as well. You'd be taking profits all the way down. But these levels are sort of tested a little bit already, so they'd be weaker support. That doesn't mean that we're looking for shorts coming into this. We need to see price attempt to take this again and then fail before we actually confirm looking for a short there. But on the chart, the most immediate high value trade idea I think is there for a short position. But if we end up gaining this, I think that there's a very high likelihood that we see continued pushing into new highs. This is kind of the first time in a while where we can kind of talk about how the higher time frame chart is starting to look a little bit uglier from an uptrend standpoint. We've had very clean higher highs and higher lows for a little while. This is the first part where it's starting to kind of really put in what could look like a lower low just on the trend. We haven't really done that yet. We've really put in kind of an equal low. But if we don't then make a higher high, we're looking at either sideways consolidation or breaking the uptrend. So just kind of something to start looking at. We don't have any confirmations to the downside yet at all, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. But in the short term, I absolutely agree with your trade idea. If we can hold this area, we're looking for higher. So until either of those ideas play out, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens with the price action here. Any differences on the S&P chart?
It's pretty similar. We've got that same really big move on Thursday, and the bulls took over on Friday and got us back up over the level we lost here. Not all the levels that we lost, but we're well on our way. So if we can see this zone here, this box hold, it looks really good for a test at 5,280, and then 5,300 if that can hold the top of the range there. Do you see anything else?
No, I mean, they do look very similar. I think the box level here makes more sense than kind of this level to gain, which we sent us up initially. But That's just because we want to see this range, that we've closed back above. We want to see that kind of hold. Whether we take the top or the low of the box is kind of irrelevant. Just somewhere in this range, we want to see it hold, looking like another higher low situation. 5,280 is the most immediate level to gain, but the big one on the chart is still 5,300, like you were talking about before we started recording. I mean, that is when we made the first new all-time high, the level that kind of failed to hold, that sent us down. We regained above, made a fresh new high, and then dumped below it. So this is kind of the major level that has a lot of, I would say that's where all the resistance is on the chart in order to kind of move higher. One quick little thing to point out is we have kind of our fib projection based on our pulls on the weekly chart here, from failure to failure, from the entire consolidation of the bear market from 22. We're fast approaching the 1.618 of that fib, which is 5,365. So we are getting close to there. I'm not saying that means that there's going to be a pullback at this point. We can, we're in price discovery when we're making new highs. So this is the first indication of a level we can be certain that we want to look and see what happens to the price. That could end up being a major level for gaining to send us even higher, or failing to send us up to send us lower. So something to be aware of, but other than your initial analysis, there's nothing really to add to that. I think you're spot on with your levels there. I think that we should move on to the RTY, which some of the other charts a little bit more uncertain. This one, potentially we've lost some levels on the short term, but we're still in the process of making higher highs and higher lows on the longer term, particularly the weekly chart. We are closing above levels that we haven't closed above since the downtrend. So still looking good for higher. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some of these areas tested around here. 2043 or 2020-ish could be tested and then moving back higher. Still looks good for a hold at 2080 though, so we could see that hold and then move higher and produce a higher high to send us up, but nothing really has changed on this chart until we lose probably 2020. Do you see anything different?
No, it does look like it still needs to regain. It's a little lower than the NQ and the ES, but it could certainly do that right now. If it does look like it'll go lower than either of those as well, but it's on its way and nothing goes straight up. So we kind of expect sell-offs when we, and this is an all-time high, but it's high for a long time, so it makes sense that there's quite a bit of rejection here.
Yeah, and it is traveling through the major areas, so it would make sense that the shorts would defend their position, at least initially here. So yeah, I agree with that. Talking about gold, kind of just grinding higher highs, higher lows, all the way up. It makes sense that when we pump to this fresh high, that we would come down to this origin as sort of a pain point. People are like, maybe there's a reversal there. We could see that was the area it's struggling to gain above, ended up holding it, moving higher. So, again, just remaining the level to hold. And when we do hold it, we, that's an equal low. We can either make an equal high or a higher high, and that's what we've done. So even just now this afternoon on Sunday, it came back and tested the high of that range, and now we're moving back up, or at least getting bought up.
What a great long.
Yeah. And so until we, kind of see a change in this higher high, higher low trend, we're not really expecting any major pullbacks. We do have this fib up here at 2,520. That could come real quick. It's been maybe a week or two of price action that's just gone up over 150 points, 200 points from the lows here. So this can happen very quickly. This is not unreasonable to see this week or next week, if things don't reverse in the meantime. But price, like you said, doesn't always go straight up, so we can expect some pullbacks to larger levels. But right now, there's no indication of pulling back. It's just more continuation higher. What do you see?
Yeah, more of the same. I think it's going to continue upwards. I think the candle right here on the 4-hour is, I don't want to say proof of that, but it's really on its way in the correct direction to continue continue up. Here we are on the 1 minute, and it really looks like it wants to pump, all of $3.50, but that's
yeah,
a lot
but
on gold.
the same trends can be applied to any time frame. So
right.
I see what you're saying. And when we are looking at the shorter time frames, you definitely want to be cognizant of the higher time frame trend. So,
right.
You might say on the 1 minute there, well, we've made some lows and it failed downward, so we might expect lower lows. But look at the 4 hour; it looks like it's pumped down.
Yeah, nothing's failed yet.
Nothing has been lost. So here we go. What do you think of the Dow? I mean, probably the more definitively ugly chart of the three major indexes, but we haven't really lost any major time frame levels yet, I would say.
Yeah, I think it needs to hold this zone here, this box. It could come down a little bit, but we really don't want to see more than about 85 points from where we are. We want to see the closes up here in this box, and if we can hold it, we do expect to see at least a test here of 39,700. And again, if we can hold that, then we would expect back up here to all-time high. What do you think about that?
I think that you kind of just talked about the perfect level here, right? So if we, mark that out, closed above there, and then pumped, that ended up being a level that attempted to hold and sent us down to the next level to test, came back up, failed that, and then we really dumped from there. So if we're going to see all-time high, I think 39,740-ish is the level to gain. That is the one that's the most important one on the 4 hour chart here if we're going to see a fresh higher high. But I agree also with your levels in the more recent price action. If we can hold around here 39,200, that would look good to potentially regain these levels to test that again. But we'll have to see. We could also fail this level to gain that we failed to hold. This is the low of this consolidation. That would probably send us lower. But that's something that we'll have to see if we can regain or not. I still think that even if we do regain that, the real level to pay attention to before we kind of really take some bigger longs to the upside would be up here, as you pointed out.
Yep. Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on oil? Oil's been moving pretty quickly recently.
Yeah, quite the pump. It did just recently have a gap down here on Sunday afternoon. Not the wildest thing to see in the world. I'd love to see it come down here to about 85, and that would still look really, really good for longs. On all the time frames, that would look really good to get even 90 this week or higher. Even if it did come down below 85, it would still be looking pretty good for longs. My next favorite area is 83, but 85 is a pretty good spot there for a long. What do you think?
I mean, I see the same thing you do on that. I think that if you looked at the daily, you could kind of call it somewhere in here, 85, 70-ish, 80, like anywhere in this kind of range. If you wanted to draw a box, just where the price consolidation kind of occurred in that range, somewhere in there. Oh, we have it already set to do that. So, anywhere in this area where it, attempted to hold to push higher, and then when we broke below, failed to hold to send us lower. That tells us that that's like a key area of interest for price. And now that we kind of identified that range, we can look kind of in there to kind of hone in where we want, and kind of like you're talking about, somewhere maybe 85, 50, or maybe even the lows at, kind of right where we kind of almost lost it, closed back in the range, and then pumped from there. So anywhere kind of in this 85, 50, low 85s range, I think are great longs. And that would also coincide with the fact that if this is a low, that would be a higher low on the time frame, so we could pump even higher off of that. Definitely nothing that says any of that can happen. I think the immediate level to gain is up here at 88. I think we talked about this last week or the week before that. You might say this is close enough. I don't really, I don't like saying after the fact that, oh, this is close enough, but these things are all ranges, so this isn't necessarily an unrealistic test, although I would want to see it actually attempt to gain 88 definitively like we had up here. Even though it failed, that was the attempt to kind of push back up here. So if we can regain 88, I think we'll see 91. If not, we could always just go lower, like you were talking about, in the 85s, or even down here at 83 before doing so. But nothing says that we're in immediate danger of losing the uptrend. I mean, this looks... We look at the weekly chart, right? Doesn't this look super clean? Like higher high, higher low. We're in the process of trying to discover if we can make a higher high again. This is the first sign of reversal, so it looks great.
Yep, it is.
The dollar has been absolutely wild recently. We definitely gained over the range that we wanted to see, and then we kind of dumped down below and actually made a definitive lower low from the areas that were regained. So we're kind of in this territory where the uptrend is still intact, although we've seen the first signs of potential reversal on the dollar. I think you drew this before we started. If we can regain this area where price had failed to kind of break above, did break above, tried to support, broke back below, and even just recently on Friday, really wicked into there and sold off. If we can gain this range again, we can attempt to regain the failure that sent us down and potentially try for a new all-time high on this leg, which we would then be expecting 105.8. It's been a pretty grindy road for the dollar and a lot of volatility, but it's important to kind of look at the higher time frame, and we haven't actually lost anything that we've regained here. So until we lose, I would say 103.9, we're still looking good for higher if we can close above those ranges that we're talking about. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to see it gain right here. Right there, 104.48. And then proceed up to the box and gain that as well. If we don't see that happening, I see it coming down to 103.6 again. That's what I think.
Yeah. I could see that. That's definitely a good level that coincides with the failure that sent us down there after trying to hold in the one that pumped us up. So I see that. I guess we'll have to see if we can kind of gain above this level that you'd marked out, 104.48. If we can do that, then that looks less likely than attempting to test this box. But of course, if we do go there and fail, we'll have to make a new low. So we'll have to see. What are your thoughts on the banks?
I think that we're likely to continue down. We've come down to the level that brought us up. They're trying to hold it, but it's looking pretty iffy here. If they can hold it, everything's fine, and we'll proceed up. But if they can't, we will come down, and if they cannot regain from this level back up to here, we will come pretty far down here to at least 45.80. But I believe we'll proceed all the way down to the box between 45.5 and 44 here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the banks have been real choppy. I think one thing that's more in line with your thesis of seeing lower is after having attempted to kind of regain this level to gain, we did reject pretty hard. We'd said that we wanted to look for longs in this range. Those would have been stopped out. And then we kind of went back to the low here. But more importantly is we wicked up here on Thursday and rejected again. So I think we're very much likely to see lower. We couldn't regain even the range that we wanted to see hold on the way up. So now that's being rejected on the way down. I think that tells us we're likely to see lower. We could see an equal low hold at 47, or we could see a lower low like you're saying. And then we could, see lower after that. So kind of a long road to regain the uptrend here. I think that we were of the opinion that this was okay as long as we kind of used this range to gain this level. We couldn't do that, so I think that we're in danger of kind of losing a bigger chunk of this uptrend. We at least have to go lower to go higher, I think, on the banks right now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it looks like. It's looking like it needs to come down before it can go up.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see. I think that the arrows we've got marked out there are pretty accurate in terms of what we could potentially expect, right? Fail the range, see lower, fail the range, regain it, and then move higher. So that's kind of what we're looking for right now. But I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for tuning into the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. See you next week.